Oh, damn it. Okay, we should be live. That must be the sound in the background. 1 second. Alright. Alright, sounds like we're good. Just start the stream. Oh, just make it unprivate. Hi everyone in the second channel. Hope everyone is good. Public. The mic should be working fine. Alright. Should be live. Let me just share the stream with everyone and then we'll get going. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the spicy discourse, but I don't want to name people who started the discourse, so I'm not actually going to name names. I'm just going to talk about the issue in general. Because we don't want to brigade anyone or just single people out, because I don't think the person who said this, although it was very disappointing they said it, in my opinion, someone who likes their work and follows them, I don't think the person who said this deserves like loads and loads of hate, but as someone who thought I was on good terms with them, like I don't really know this person, but I thought, you know, they were nice enough from small interactions. Oh. Just post it on Discord and then we're good to go, and I will get the chat up. Where's my Discord? But yeah, I wasn't going to stream today. Feeling a bit tired, but I thought near the end of the week, so let's go for it. Just posting it on Discord and then we're good. Alright, sweet. So I'm just going to get the chat up and then I'm ready. Is anyone suffering from hay fever yet? I feel like it's finally getting to that point. I'm ready. Alright. Kangaroo. Hey Kangaroo, thanks for joining. I'll wait for a couple more people. I'm obviously not going to start now. I hope everyone's good. So we can talk about it a bit, but I finally finished both Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima I took an absolutely huge break from. But then I came back and I really liked it. So sometimes you just need a break from these games. Also, that was the same thing I had with Days Gone as well. Like I dropped it for like a year, and then I came back. So it can be like, you know, sometimes you just need a break. But yeah, today, Lennon's birthday, so I thought I'd stream. We've got a stream for Lennon's birthday. I also want to get some ideas for content tomorrow, because I don't have my phone on me, but I really cannot think of anything to do a video on tomorrow. I'm really like, out of ideas at the moment. Hi Katie, driving home from work at the moment. Hope everyone's doing well. I hope you're doing well. I hope your day was good at work. I apologise, I forgot what your job is, so you're going to have to remind me at some point. Because you have definitely told me. I just forget. But yeah, I wanted to... yeah, Specky V, that's the funny thing. Like, I knew the history of the Mongol invasion of Japan before. So yeah, it would be historically accurate to summon a typhoon. But at the same time, I'm fine with it. It was cool. Well, my main problem with Ghost of Tsushima compared to Assassin's Creed, I think it makes a really poor use of its historical setting. Because if you ask most people what year that game's set in, I doubt they could really tell you. Because it just doesn't feel like a historical game, and it has some nice little bits about the Mongols' life. Like I really enjoyed learning about how they used fermented milk a lot, because obviously they're nomads, so you can't just keep milk on you the whole time. So they have fermented milk, which apparently was quite nice. The drink they made. also like these weird like dairy cubes I used to have as well. So body waxer. Oh, okay, you have told me that before. But I just get confused sometimes because obviously I speak to a lot of people on stream. But yeah, was it a long day? I was watching an old live stream I did on New Year's Eve 2019, and I was talking about my job, which I had just started like a month in, and I was already talking about hating it. Mongols back in the day were, yeah. There's a really good thing I read. It's this monk in Central Europe, and it's after the Mongols like invade Hungary, and they're just talking about it being like the end times. What are you doing up at 2 a.m? Most of my videos go live at 3 a.m, so I'm always up at this time. YouTube's my full-time job at the moment, so I do what I want. Yeah, but oh yeah, the Hungary stuff. So this priest thought it was literally Judgment Day, and these were like the armies of Satan or something. And it's just really interesting reading stuff like that, because the Mongols are literally butchering everyone. He's like hiding in some forest from them. But it's 3:30 in Egypt. Why are you still up, Boggy? Are you a student or something? So I'm just going to check my notifications. Oh, yeah. Here's a question I asked on Twitter. I ordered gyros or gyros today. I said gyros at the restaurant. I don't know what the pronunciation is, whatever. And I was fully expecting like the Greek wrap, which I've had before, and they gave me a plate of like chips, salad, and meat, and it was fine. It was nice enough and stuff. But I was like, is this common? Like, do most like gyros are they not served in like some sort of flatbread or like a wrap? I was really confused, really confused because I wanted a wrap. Mongols having a milk party felt like invading a kids' party during that one mission. Is that when you poison them all? Same time in Sudan. Are you watching me from Sudan? Tahaka. That's crazy. I always get surprised by how international my audience are, because obviously on my analytics it says nearly everyone's from America, and then the UK and like Germany and stuff. Oh, you're beginning fasting for the day. Oh, are you up eating then, Boggy? So I'll just wait for a few more people because I want to talk about this socialism stuff. But yeah, if I say I'm uncomfortable with eat the rich, I'm not saying this. If I say that to people, do they know what I'm talking about? Like this thing going around on Twitter at the moment. So someone said they were uncomfortable with socialists saying eat the rich because it means they want mass violence, apparently. And like I said at the start, I'm not going to say who said it, but I think it's a common enough sentiment about socialism being inherently violent that it's worth talking about on stream. And I offered to debate this person. Well, they actually offered me, but I doubt they're ever going to come through with it. So I want to talk about it on stream today. Hey man, how are we doing? Hi, Eli, thanks for joining. Watching from a shithole called Saudi. Oh, that's pretty crazy. Saudi Arabia and Sudan and Egypt. Very international audience we got going here. And then basically loads of Americans. Yeah, how is Sudan? Okay, people don't know the discourse I'm talking about. Okay. So basically, a YouTuber who I thought was fairly leftist started shitting all over socialists, saying we're all inherently violent. And then I tried to explain to them, because they were being like dogpiled on Twitter by like socialists and stuff. And then I was trying to explain to them, in the UK, we have a socialist group of Labour MPs. We've had multiple socialist prime ministers. In Bolivia, socialists just won the election. And after being expelled in like a quite violent right-wing coup, they simply just imprisoned the people who did it. And they didn't kill them all. And she was basically saying, because the people on Twitter are being very mean to her, all socialists are inherently violent. And extremely disappointed in this person. Can't believe the lack of nuance in that. And the tweet I wrote today, just to sum up the argument, is because this is my problem with liberals, right? They seem to think they have some sort of monopoly on violence, where the violence they always do to maintain the world order, the capitalist world order, the American hegemony, that's justifiable. But when socialist peasants have had enough of being violently oppressed and rise up, that is not acceptable to these liberals. So my tweet was, wealthy American racists overthrow British monarchy and create US through genocide and slavery. Liberals, oh my god, based, land of the free. Poor peasants run plantation owners and mafia out of Cuba. I don't know, guys, this makes me uncomfortable. Why are we celebrating Lenin's birthday? Not really celebrating it. I like Lenin's writings enough, especially the ones from World War One. Obviously, he's not a perfect man and stuff, but I respect Lenin in a lot of ways. I'm probably like Che Guevara and Fidel Castro and Ho Chi Minh a lot more than Lenin. But he's the guy who, Leninism, Marxist-Leninism. I wouldn't describe myself as one, but I do like a lot of what it has to say on imperialism mainly. Earth Day was created to distract from Lenin's birthday. To many anti-socialists, socialism is the ultimate big evil. And the thing is, I would get out my tweet thread what I said to them, but I don't want to show you guys who they are if you don't know. But basically, I was saying, like, I'm not trying to say that socialism is a pacifist ideology, because it's not. And I'm not trying to say, there aren't violent socialists, but saying, that it's inherently violent. Like, everyone who's she's basically saying socialists were just as bad as Nazis. And what's funny to me is, like, liberals have this monopoly on violence, like I said, where they'll criticize countries like Cuba for the flaws in the Cuban system or the bad things Cuba have done, but they will not apply this logic to the US, right? So, like I've said before, the US is probably, in my opinion, one of the most evil countries in contemporary history, right? And I think the scale of their atrocities is really unmatched. So I say the damage the US has wrought on many countries is just unparalleled by any other modern power apart from the British Empire. I can't think of another one that's had as big a reach for destructiveness. But my problem with American liberals and to a lesser extent American leftists sometimes is that America as a country is like an imperialist concept. It's not like I've had Americans, especially American liberals, tell me America doesn't like imperialism. Well, FDR might have told the French and the British to cut it out, but that doesn't mean America is like anti-imperialist, because the original states of America, what is it, 13 colonies, mostly in the north, well, basically just in the north of what we know as contemporary United States. The rest of it was inhabited by Native Americans, of course, by Spanish, by French, obviously I don't agree with them guys being there either, and then by Mexicans as well. And what happened to all of them? How did the US become how big it is, as big as it is today? Puerto Rico. When did Puerto Rico become a US territory? It's after the Spanish-American War, where they just like picked up Spanish colonies like Puerto Rico and the Philippines. And this notion that America isn't an imperialist concept to begin with, I'm not even just talking about today, I'm talking about from the very start, is quite laughable that liberals seem to think that like Cuban people rising up and violently expelling the people who violently oppressed them for years and years and years, that's bad. And that means socialism is evil. But drone striking weddings, invading multiple sovereign nations, committing essentially genocide in Southeast Asia on Vietnamese socialists and like Laotian socialists and stuff, that's perfectly justifiable and not one of the worst war crimes in modern history. And that's what gets me with liberals. They don't realise the system currently is extremely violent because it needs violence to maintain itself. And if socialist revolutionaries end up being violent, and in most cases they've been pushed to that. Cuban Revolution didn't start out violent. The Vietnamese Revolution, the United States promised Ho Chi Minh that after the Second World War, Vietnam could be an independent country, essentially where he would be the new leader because he would get elected in. And then immediately when the war was over, Truman says to the French, "Yeah, you can have Vietnam back. I don't want the French. I don't want the French Parliament to go communist. I don't want them to become Soviet aligned. So there you go. There's your old colonies back." Then that kicked off the first Indochina War with the French in 1946. And the really ironic part of that is that the French and the British stationed there actually used the Japanese who had been occupying Vietnam to fight the Viet Minh. So that really shows you everything you need to know about, the liberal world order. Defeat fascist Japan, defeat fascist Germany, but then use fascist Japan's leftover soldiers to fight the socialist revolutionaries who you promised could run their own affairs and not live under a colonialist regime. So it's just like, it's wild to me. And that's why I was saying, like, if I debated this person, it would be a pretty short conversation, because I'm not defending there has been violent socialist revolutions. I'm just defending that both socialism is not inherently violent, and that the liberal world order, even dating back to 1990s, it is built on violence and it is maintained by violence. And the monopoly that liberals seem to have on violence, where the American Revolution is fine, a bunch of wealthy people killing other wealthy people so they can hoard more of their own wealth and transfer the wealth to themselves. That is somehow some honest plight for freedom, despite most of the founding fathers owning slaves and the soldiery in them often conducting, genocide against Native Americans and stuff. That's all fine, because that's like 200 and something years ago. But Cubans chasing out plantation owners who built their wealth on slavery of Africans, Cubans who overthrow a brutal US-backed regime because it treats the peasantry like shit and lets the Italian-American mafia run Havana. So like that's the thing. When poor people have a justifiable reason to revolt, just like the Viet Minh and the NLF and the North Vietnamese, that's totally unpalatable to liberals. But when their own history they've done it, by wealthy people in their history, educated people in their history like George Washington, who did have power, who did own slaves, who was in the British Army, and suddenly, when he revolts, that's very justifiable, because he doesn't want to pay as much taxes to the crown, just like most of these colony result. The thing is, with colonial revolts in colonies that these countries established, going back to the Spanish in the 1500s, the number one reason these guys revolt is because they no longer want to pay taxes to a place they don't think is their home. They don't want to pay taxes to the Spanish crown. Why would they? They're out in a jungle in America, in South America, living on their own, providing for themselves. So why would they want to pay taxes? And that's the heart of the American issue as well. But the caveat being, the wealthy American elite before the revolution had already built up their power base financially. It's not like they were poor farmers. That's the image we like to portray to people about the American Revolution. It was just the everyday man. It was just your average Joe who'd had enough of British oppression, when in reality it was a bunch of rich people who just didn't want to pay their taxes to the crown anymore. Who the fuck is this guy? How do I always attract crazy people, man? So read some comments quick. Genuine criticisms of Stalin. I mean, I can have... How long have you got? I can have 1 million criticisms of Stalin. Unleashing anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. Interfering with processes in other communist countries like Czechoslovakia. Read about the Slansky trial, which is driven by anti-Semitism as well. Just general Stalinism in the 1930s. Killing all his political opponents in the Communist Party, subverting Lenin's will by not telling people about the letter Lenin wrote about Stalin, warning of him, Yeah, just general Stalinist terror, USSR's imperialism under Stalin and stuff. What do I think of Vosh going after tankies? I mean, he can do what he wants. I think it's a bit more fruitless than going after, you know, people in power like liberals and the far right. But if he wants to go after tankies, then that's whatever. He can do what he wants. It's his own channel. American liberals and the right see violence carried out through the US with rose-tinted glasses. It's all cloaked in the guise of protecting freedom. Yeah, exactly. Things like the Battle of Fallujah. You know, I've had criticisms about 6 Days in Fallujah coming out. You know, loads of things in the Vietnam War. It's just unjustifiable. And if Iran or North Korea did what America did in Vietnam, you would never hear the end of it, because America constantly says Cuba is one of the worst places for human rights abuses, and they say that without irony. And it's like, you know, I don't necessarily want to live in Cuba, but I also know that Cuba's development as a country has been extremely hindered by a completely unjustifiable blockade on the island by the US. And it's psychopathic doing that, because the US is friends with so many other countries that are awful human rights abusers, whether that is like Saudi Arabia, key among them. There's plenty of like mini versions of them. Even countries like Egypt, for example. But they're just useful in the global game for, you know, world power and everything. It's like Egypt, for example. Sorry, we had a cutout with OBS. What was I on about? Tankies. Should be back. Press F if you can hear me. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah. So I can understand tankies sometimes, because I can understand why people get so frustrated with living in a US-dominated world, where the morality of the US of the world is basically dictated by what the US sees as moral and sees as immoral. And so I can understand why people become tankies, thinking, oh, you know, awesome, China are standing up to the global world order of the US. China are standing up to these people. But the problem is, what tankies often do is kind of rehabilitate China, because my main criticism with China is the thing is, people don't understand China enough, right? So Chinese nationalism is pretty wild, and it's quite gross in some ways, because we talk about the Uyghur stuff, but what people don't realize is there's a significant strain of Chinese nationalism which is based on the Han ethnicity in China. The Han people are like the people who ruled China in their like golden age, where they were like the middle kingdom of the world, right? And Chinese people believe, a lot of them who buy into this nationalism, is that China has the rightful place as the middle kingdom, meaning the center of the earth, the most important power in the earth. And this is essentially what the Chinese Communist Party have promised them, is that when China is reunified, when Tibet and Taiwan come back under Chinese control, or, you know, Communist Party control, this is like part of getting back to where China used to be like 2,000 years ago. And Deng Xiaoping, when he came in the 1980s, he whipped up this nationalism because Mao didn't want people to talk about China's past, because he thought that we've been embarrassed, basically. Since the Opium War, we've been carved up by the Europeans and we've been carved up by the Americans. Mao thought, let's not talk about that. We don't want to talk about any of that stuff because it's embarrassing to the Communist Party. But then when Deng Xiaoping came in, he was like, no, we are going to talk about this stuff. You Europeans, you screwed us for years. Japanese, you screwed us for years. Now we're coming back and we're going to be the most powerful country on earth. And the people in China, the Communist Party, is your way to, you know, retaining what we used to be 2,000 years ago. And that's the main thing people do not understand about China. People think the Communist Party is a totalitarian dictatorship, which no one likes, which no one wants there. And oh, poor Chinese people, they cannot choose anything for themselves because they live under a totalitarian regime. And China isn't a totalitarian state, it's an authoritarian state. But the problem is, a lot of these people like the Communist Party because even if they might not necessarily love communism or love the Communist Party's version of capitalism that they use in China, they see the Communist Party as strong, and they see the Communist Party as the quickest way to getting China back to its place as the Middle Kingdom in world affairs, essentially. And that's part of the discourse people don't really understand with China. And it's also the ethnic side of that, the Han Chinese side of that, plays into a lot of this stuff with the Uyghurs and everything. Where, you know, if you know Chinese history, you know Kublai Khan, or Kublai Khan, who's is he Genghis Khan's grandson. He became the emperor of China, and the Mongols ruled China for a long time. And this sort of, you know, the Mongol people and the steppe people, China never really liked them. The Han Chinese never liked these people. And it's like, it has been an ethnic thing that people do not understand. And I wouldn't say it's overtly fascist, but there is an ethnic thing underlying nationalism in China. And again, people don't understand that because we like to view it through the lens of communism or people being tankies and stuff, or people loving the Communist Party because they love communism. People like the Communist Party because they're strong and what they're doing. If the Communist Party don't deliver Taiwan, people in China won't be happy. And China is not a totalitarian state. So that would either put pressure on the leadership shifting, and the whole legitimacy of the Communist Party rests on China becoming a great superpower and, you know, having the ability to take back Taiwan and Tibet without the West doing anything. And when China's reunified, it's basically like a signal for a lot of these people. So that's the frustrating thing. I don't think most, even Western leftists, understand what China is as a society because they don't understand Chinese history. And I don't blame it. A lot of us aren't taught it. I had to go see, and there's a good podcast, and this guy I think is a socialist, but he hates the Communist Party. It's called The History of China. Super long podcast, been going on for years. I stopped listening to it a couple of years back, but very, very good. And if you like the game Dynasty Warriors, it might be a nice jumping off point because it starts about 200 years before the Three Kingdoms period. The Three Kingdoms period of like Cao Cao and Lu Bu, these characters from Dynasty Warriors. So I definitely recommend that if you want to learn about Chinese history. I was lucky enough that I did like modules in Chinese history for my master's course in international relations. So I got to get a real good inside look, and I was actually taught by a Chinese guy as well, which was very helpful. The Chinese economy, like, I've had arguments with people. I said it's like state capitalists, and they're just using capitalism to get to communism. And my main thing is, and we went over this in the video about China's not ruining your video games, is that there's a billionaire class in China, which the Communist Party don't particularly like. But this billionaire class also helps China's soft power on the world stage. It's these companies that can show, look, this is what China can do. This is why China is good. This is why we're better than other countries. And they don't really like the relationship with these people, but at the same time, they're helpful for them. And that's why they're tolerated by the Communist Party and stuff, even though they want to keep them on a bit of a short leash. And that's another part of things, you know, maybe American liberals and leftists don't understand, is that China is not a totalitarian state where all these corporations are totally in bed with the Chinese government. You do have to often join the Communist Party to even be allowed to operate in China in this way. But these people don't just do the bidding of the Communist Party. You know, a lot of them are publicly traded companies. You can go own stock in, you can go buy stock in Chinese companies. It's not like a state-owned company. Sometimes a state owns significant shares, but they don't own them all. I mean, Afu King, do you really think I'm saying positive things about China when I'm talking about, like, ethnic-based nationalism? Do you think I think that's a good thing? I'm not praising China. I'm just giving people a bit of an education on how they don't understand China properly, and how Chinese people aren't all rabid communists. It's that they like the Communist Party for a variety of reasons. And the big misconception is that if, you know, with the Uyghur stuff, it's that the Chinese people would be totally horrified by it. Now, I'm sure a lot of Chinese people would be, but the more nationalists among them wouldn't probably be as against it as you'd think, to be honest. Cav, you're speaking straight facts. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, don't get it twisted. I literally said the reason people like China is because of its morality imposed by like this American world order and stuff. And I'm trying to help you guys understand the nuances of China. I'm not saying China is a great country to live or China is doing good things. I'm just explaining to you why it does what it does, why people like it in China, and how they have, the support of a lot of Chinese people. Because, like I said, it's not a totalitarian state, and it's an authoritarian state. And then Deng Xiaoping is the guy who unleashed this nationalism, and the nationalism is very helpful politically for the Communist Party, but it's a double-edged sword in the sense that if they don't deliver, like, they have that thing with Hong Kong coming back to the Chinese, being part of China by, is it 2049? If they go back on that, then it just looks extremely bad for them. And the legitimacy of the Communist Party rests on issues like Taiwan and Tibet. I think it's hard for a lot of us in Western countries where we aren't very nationalistic to understand that a lot of Chinese people deeply care about Taiwan and deeply care about Tibet and Hong Kong. They really do want it to be part of the communist China. And I think sometimes maybe we think in our Western bubbles is that people can't feel like this. But these people do feel like this because of colonialism of the region. Like, if you guys know the history of Taiwan, Taiwan was taken by the Japanese during the First Sino-Japanese War. After the nationalists were kicked out of power in 1949 by Mao and the communists, they fled to Taiwan. Taiwan was recognized as as the Republic of China, and was the only China at the UN until I think it was like 1971. And in terms of that stuff, Taiwan, what it represents to a lot of Chinese people is here as a part of China, historically a part of China, that has been cut away from us by the Japanese. And now it's just a Western stooge. And Taiwan isn't a Western stooge, but they think here is just, the nationalist government, Chiang Kai-shek's government, which were totally backed by the Americans in the West. And they've taken a part of China, and we want it back, basically. And that's the thing with Taiwan. And, I guess, like I said, because in the West, I'm not even patriotic. I think it's patriotism's dumb. I will never be patriotic about my country. I'm not even patriotic about Ireland, like obviously my ancestral homeland and stuff. But I think sometimes it can be hard for us to imagine being so whipped up. It's like think of Egyptians and Boggy, you're Egyptian. Palestine and Egypt, for example. Think of how people get riled up about Palestine and Egypt. There's stuff like that. So yeah, and that's all I want to get at is that people like to say, oh, like dictatorship of Communist Party, poor Chinese people. And I think what you've got to understand is, yeah, they are quite oppressive, but it is more of a symbiotic relationship than you'd think, in that they are popular. It's the same way of Vladimir Putin. People like to act like he just exists because he's like the king and everyone hates him. Lots of people in Russia like Putin. That's why he does all the nationalistic shit in Ukraine and Crimea. That's why he passes the anti-gay stuff, because he's appealing to his rabid base of Russian nationalists or Russian Christians who like this stuff. And it's the same with the Chinese. And it's like that they don't exist forever, like by just oppressing every single person. This isn't Mao's China in 1967 or something. This isn't Korea today or something. It's nothing like that. It's more the Chinese government needs the support of the people. And like I said, and although a lot of these Communist Party officials will be deeply nationalist as well, and they'll want Taiwan back, and they'll want Tibet to be part of the communist system, they also know that they have pressure on them from the public as well. And let's read some of the comments now. Yeah, Emily, the thing is, British nationalism obviously exists, and maybe a lot of it's been normalised with like how we praise people like Churchill, but I do think like the British at the moment, even the patriotic ones, are a bit more low key. Um, the only thing I'm like really not I'm passionate about certain things. Like I want Northern Ireland to become part of the Republic of Ireland, for example, because I feel like that's the only way to finally end the legacy of British imperialism in a country obviously that I'm from. Um, and obviously people are far more passionate about it than I am, especially people in Ireland itself. I was trying to explain to the person who said that socialists are inherently violent, like my family, a lot of them in the IRA, IRB, got killed by the British and stuff. But the violence there is ugly. Like no one wants that violence. No one wants that sectarianism. But a lot of the times you've got to diagnose where it comes from in the first place. The Irish sectarianism comes after like 500 years of conquest and the Irish Catholics being made second-class citizens in their own country by a people who aren't actually from there, the English and the Scottish. I'm going to read some comments now. Yeah, China does have a long history, very long history. Coco Man saying Cuckoo Man. Sometimes I think people make a false equivalency of what China does and what America does. Sometimes though, you see this with Japanese nationalists who make false equivalents about war crimes. I don't know if you're getting at. You mean like people say China is worse or America is worse? Cav, you have been are you saying I look Egyptian, Boogie? Am I late again, Spooky? You're about in the middle. That's a pretty decent understanding of modern Chinese nationalism. Oh, awesome. Are you Chinese from your name I'm looking at? You're not patriotic. Yeah, what would I be patriotic about? Most Egyptians are anti-Zionist. Yeah, one of my good friends from university is Egyptian. I spoke to her a lot about this stuff. But it can be anti-Semitic. Yeah, we're talking about that as well. She said Egypt has a lot of casual anti-Semitism because of the Israel stuff. Hi everyone. Hi Fran. So Sunshine saying I'm Irish heritage too. How far back are you? Are you Irish American? So it's 3:30 in Sudan. You are in fact Nduma. Yeah, I think I am. Eric, hi Eric, thanks for joining. Oh yeah, here's a question I got for people. I'm gonna carry on talking about this stuff. Have people got any ideas for videos lately? Like anything they want me to cover? And I've explained this a lot of times. Keep in mind the type of stuff I often cover in my channel, not just like random news or topics or anything. Oh, you're from Iran. My audience is so international. I'm like, is it Pitbull who says the international stuff? What's the deal with the Mr. Robot callbacks? John, do you mean my profile picture, or do you mean my wall, like the Mr. Robot profile picture? How do I feel about Puerto Rican statehood? It's something I haven't read too much up about, but I did. If anyone's Puerto Rican in the chat or related to Puerto Rican people, just knows about it. My understanding of it is that Puerto Rico does lean pretty right wing, but a lot of the questions at the moment is if it wants to be an independent state or if it wants to be a state. Like, does it want to be a self-governing territory, I think. Why not Egyptian nationality? Egyptian is a nationality. Yeah, we all over the place. All right, in the chat. So I've heard Sudan and Iran, which is pretty crazy. If you're from a country that you think I wouldn't think you're watching from, put it in the chat right now. Lenin was a naughty boy. He should have been spanked. I'm also Iranian. Oh, that's cool. I was speaking about... Wait. Was I given a history lesson on like Iran, like last stream or something? Argentina, that's so cool. Croatia, oh wow. Italy, Saudi Arabia, Saudi. Not to be super ignorant, but in Saudi Arabia, is it relatively free where you can watch my stuff? Like, is there no government censorship? People's Republic of Quebec, so Canada, that's pretty cool. North Sudanese, awesome. It's pretty crazy. I think like everyone who watches my videos is mostly American, but when I come on stream, all of you guys seem to be like not American. It's a very weird like like disconnect. Sorry. New York, classic. Hi, I love your channel. Some of my favourite stuff you do is about how conservatives don't understand their favourite media. I think one about Rage Against the Machine could be good. Yeah, I've actually been thinking about this a long time. I'm trying to think of the problem with this video that you suggested, and nothing against you because I've been thinking about this. I cannot think of other bands that prominent conservatives like that I could make it about, because obviously Rage Against the Machine, Donald Trump used to play against in his rallies and stuff. So that's how I know about it. And I'm thinking about Tom York and Radiohead, which make really political songs. And of course I know right-wingers like them. But I think Paul Joseph Watson might like Radiohead. But then I'm trying to think, also this video would be like crazy for copyright stuff as well, because you can't use music mostly. But one I also wanted to make was like Matrix and Fight Club. Perhaps like... But here's what I need help with. Do you know... Okay, I can talk about Red Pill and I can talk about Snowflake. Snowflake was made by the Fight Club book. Red Pill was obviously from the Matrix. Are there any channels or prominent conservatives who love to talk about Snowflake or even just like Fight Club or like Matrix? Anyone who's like made videos on it? Because that what I need, because the problem is, yes, I can talk about Fight Club and conservatives liking it, but of course, you know, if I start going on a rant about conservatives loving Fight Club, I need some example of conservative loving Fight Club. And I know that sounds pretty silly because we all know we've seen conservatives talk about how much they love The Matrix and Fight Club, but I need an actual example. I need someone tweeting it or I need someone saying it to make the video and base my argument around. Oh, awesome. Revolutionary Comrade, thank you so much. You finally got your super chats back. Keep taking up the trash, Comrade. No, I appreciate it so much. Yeah, my super chat was disabled for like 2 months without me realising. But Revolutionary Comrade, I appreciate it so much, man. Thank you so much for the $5. But yeah, the super chats is back. Thank God. Neil Young, Pink Floyd, yeah. Charming in from the wild streets of Baltimore, oh, awesome as well. There's like People's Republic of Doug Ford lands, so another one from Canada. Emily saying, would you be into covering fascist subcultures that are less online? Bonehead, Nazi skinhead gangs, or the relationship between groups like the EDL and football casuals? Yeah, Emily, I am going to do a video on football and fascism. I'm mainly going to be focusing on like Tommy Robinson. Could that be one for tomorrow? Tommy Robinson. But the thing is, because I upload at 3 AM, I don't know if when I do the football one, I should upload earlier. Because obviously British people do make up my audience and they love football a lot more than Americans do. So if I made a video about like Tommy Robinson and the fascist subculture of, I don't know, various football teams, I'd mainly talk about Lazio. And then I'd want to make another one about Celtic, Liverpool, and St. Pauli, about anti-fascists and stuff. Eli saying, what do I think about the legalization of drugs? Yeah, I think drugs should be decriminalized. I think things like weed obviously should be legal. I'm really not big on drugs. I've never done them. I never want to. I think weed absolutely stinks like crap. But at the same time, I got no problem with people doing it. Katie, that is way too much, but I super appreciate it. So Katie saying take some money from my landlord boss. Nah, I always feel bad taking money, but no, if you're willing, that's so nice of you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate, the thing is, I just appreciate people's support, so it means a lot, Katie, because I know you're always in all my streams. So no, really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Yeah, I always feel bad taking money. Oh shit, that reminds me. Talking about money. Something I do tonight. What about groups like the Wolves of Vinland or Operation Werewolves? Vinland is where I just explored in Assassin's Creed, speaking of the title. But yeah, I guess that's like more like a pagan subculture thing as well. Yeah, I need to like do more stuff on that again. I just need something easy because I only got tomorrow to do it. Like I'm not like sometimes I get to plan them for a day. Could you do a video about the Super League? No. It just won't do well, and it's probably not worth the time I'd put into doing it all. That's why I'd rather do the football fascist stuff. Considering you studied history, which setting would you like to see in an Assassin's Creed game? Well, I've read this passage of one of the first Europeans to visit. I think it was, is it the Aztecs or the Incas? Who are the more modern ones than the Mayans? And I would love an Assassin's Creed game set in the mid 1500s in Latin America, where you maybe play as maybe with Assassin's Creed 3, like half native, half Spanish or something. It'd be so amazing to explore like those cultures and stuff. And the clash, and the thing is, the clash of civilization seems to always be a theme in these new RPG games, because you have AC Origins, which is Egyptians and Greeks in Egypt being conquered by Rome. Odyssey has the Persians and the Spartans and the Athenians, and then Valhalla is about the Norwegians and Danes invading England, and like fighting with like these various groups. So I think having the New World with the Spanish and the Portuguese, and just the depth of these, because it always feels like the new Assassin's Creed, you're playing around in these ancient cultures. So you have the ancient Egyptian culture in the background of Origins, you have the Mycenaean culture in Greece, and then you have obviously the Roman culture in Britain. So I think that would fit really well. I wouldn't mind a game set in India during the first Indian War of Independence against the East India Company. I think that could be amazing. Just India would be a great setting. Some sort of Chinese setting. I don't even know what period I'd pick for that. Three Kingdoms period could be cool, just like Dynasty Warriors. Japan, you obviously got a lot to pick from as well. You probably pick the Warring States period, like Samurai Warriors. Other than that, I think that's about it. Like, I wouldn't mind a more like strict medieval one, like 100 Years War. Apparently that's been rumoured. Oh, Jago Stevens, thanks so much, man. £5. A football and fascism vid would be awesome. Love your content. So glad you're able to stick about with being done dirty by a YouTube capitalist. No, thanks so much, Jago. Appreciate that so much, man. Yeah, thankfully my monetization got turned back on, including the super chats. Spooky Kitty, here's some. The people like Katie and Kitty who are patrons and then donate as well. You guys are just way too kind, man. Like way too nice to me, and I just appreciate it so much. Like really appreciate it, and it sounds like a bit like tired. Me just keep saying it. It's like deep down, like I can't really express it enough. It's like broadly, it's like all the support I get on YouTube and Patreon, like how it makes me feel. I can't really express it enough. I talked to my girlfriend about it, but it's kind of hard to let it all out. Hi John, thanks for joining. So yeah, the Peru elections I haven't really been following, but it is really funny, like how CNN didn't have a picture of the leftist candidate. Obsessed with MMA and seems to take Fight Club as a model. Yeah, it's really weird. Like, Fight Club's a critique of toxic masculinity and capitalism, but right-wingers love it. Trust me, after the day I had you doing me a service. Did you have a bad day at work, Katie? Had to wax too many, like, hairy old men. JFO show. One of my A-level classmates talked about the Frankfurt School. JFO, your friend isn't necessarily far right, and the only reason I would say that is because Jordan Peterson and a lot of people like him peddle that fascist conspiracy theory. So although it is a fascist conspiracy theory, your friend might not necessarily be far right, but that is an anti-Semitic fascist conspiracy theory. There's a lot of ways to debunk that, but like, is this guy like really weird or something? Because I can't imagine someone at 18 years old being super into that stuff. Yeah, pagan content. Yeah. Did I see the Destiny Wolf debate, Richard Wolf debate? I watched about 10 minutes, and it was just very frustrating. Like, Wolf was given like a good history lesson on socialism. What people, someone said it the best, is like, this is like a professor at university debating with one of his students who thinks he knows everything in politics 101 or something. That's the vibe I got. Also, why is Destiny so miserable? Just like one of the most like miserable people I've ever watched. Assassin's Creed in ancient Nubia, Sudan would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. Ancient Persia, yeah, that'd be a good one as well. Some Nubians are in Origins. Yeah, it's very much about, like, it isn't Bayek Nubian. I'm sure they call him Nubian. Yeah, a more jungle-like environment would be dope. Yeah, I'd super love, like, the jungles of South America. Obviously, they did it a bit in Black Flag with the Caribbean, but I really like South America. One in Argentina with the gauchos called Mate Drinking Horsemen. Yeah, that sort of stuff, like the natives of like Chile and stuff like that is cool. Sudan was a part of Egypt. Yeah, I don't know if it's part of Sudan is in the game. Canadians versus Yankees. Yeah, well, Specky, they did the 7 Years' War and they did the American Revolution. Maybe it's a bit too close. So they created an AC on China and India and Russia. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Yeah, the AC Chronicles games. Like, we need a real one. Blake, thanks so much, man. $5 about. Got my second Pfizer vaccine. You're my painkiller. Oh no, I appreciate that so much, man. I'm so jealous. You got your second vaccine. I haven't got one. I haven't even heard about it. My parents have got their first. My girlfriend's parents are getting their second tomorrow. And here I am without one. 2 of my friends have got both. One of my friends has one. And I'm just like, I'm never getting mine, am I? Like, I'm just never getting it. So yeah, I hope you're feeling better. Thanks, Spooky Kitty. Appreciate it. Oh, so he placed at the bottom. It's the 22nd, Lenin's birthday. Many hairy old women. Oh man, are you giving them bikini waxes, Katie? Assassin's Creed during apartheid. I think that's too modern, to be honest. Yeah, it's being mainstreamed by Peterson. Yep, we're conservative. Sam, thanks so much, man, for tuning in. Did I see Judas and the Black Messiah yet? Nope, I have not. The thing is, I'll explain it here. In terms of my free time, I don't get loads of free time in the week. And then because of like lockdown stuff, I've mainly been seeing my girlfriend most of the weekends. So the only time I watch TV is when I'm working out. And I only work out for about 2 hours. But normally I just stick on like Vikings or something. And then if like, for example, after the stream, I'm going to do some knee rehab. And maybe play a tiny bit of video games before I go to bed. And I just couldn't be bothered to stick on like a 2-hour movie. I should watch it though. I know I should watch it. But yeah, I'm bad. But thanks so much for $2, man. Thanks for the support on Twitter. I know we speak a lot. Blake saying, I was into Jordan Peterson after seeing him on H3. I know you said he platforms bad people sometimes, but he has good taste. Like, yeah, Blake, I think H3 and the podcast has changed a lot. They used to have some really awful people on, but it seems a bit better now. 2021 is going to be interesting. Israel, Palestine, and Syria and Iran all going to have elections. Yeah, the only ones really to look out for, like, the Syrian election is going to be a joke, so we don't need to care about that. Israel will be interesting. Will there be more gridlock? Iran, I expect the right wing in Iran to get more power, just because, like, the whole Trump era has just been. That's the other thing about like Iranian politics as well. It's like people think like a lot of people in Iran, there's like a real hard right in Iran which absolutely hate America and like would like to do battle with Israel and America. Like it's not just like a complete dictatorship. I mean, Iran has more democracy in it than fucking Saudi Arabia, an autocratic monarchy, but one's our friend and one isn't. Vosh thought Destiny won. The thing is, it's not surprising Vosh thinks that because in the form of like the online debate bro style stream, of course you're gonna like the guy who like doesn't give long answers. Like Richard Wolff was like having an academic debate while Destiny was having a debate bro debate, is the best way I could say it. I got mine last weekend. Awesome. Happy for you. Yeah, I hope you get it, Miss Barthen. Oh, pepperonif. That's bad. In America, I think there's just a lot because people don't want to take it. Okay, I do speed waxing, so I do a bikini wax in about 10 minutes. It's mostly just badge at my job. I was thinking about this, Katie. Does being exposed to that stuff like really desensitize you to like the human body? I guess it's the same with doctors. I was thinking about this when watching Westworld, because you see so many naked bodies in it, and it's like, it becomes less like, I don't know, like weird to see once you see it all the time. And you kind of realize how weirdly different everyone's body is, like the weird, unique things everyone has. Like obviously in like social media age, we get exposed to like the perfect bodies of men and women, like chiseled muscles and stuff. But you never really see, like for example, when I get abs, they're really weird. Like when I'm in really good shape, like I have like literally I just have like a cross in my stomach, and one like reaches all the way back to my back. It looks really weird. It's like it's like someone's grabbed the muscle and pulled it back. But like obviously you never see that stuff in like models and stuff, so it must be weird like seeing so much unique parts of the like just the way people look, I guess. Imagine if the Soviet Union, well, isn't one of the 2D games is set during the Bolshevik Revolution, and I think he's a communist. John saying, waxing a hairy old man, if it's against their will, you got a killer video. Yeah, oh my god, I wouldn't be able to handle being waxed. Oh no. Destiny didn't understand how feudalism was relevant to a discussion about the transition from socialism to capitalism. Well, feudalism's just, you got to talk about it when you talk about capitalism anyway. Like the transitional phase from it. Vouch is a Western chauvinist. I wouldn't call him a complete Western chauvinist, but I have outlined a lot of my problems about like his takes, like the North Korea stuff, for example. Saudi Kingdom might collapse on its own and turn into smaller states in the region after power grabs by Iran. Yeah, I wonder though. It's got so much economic power. Yeah, Blake, just think, I don't want to talk about this too much because I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. I would just say, like, there are a lot of other things people take for very normal conditions that are way more threatening than what we talk about in the chat. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. Is Egypt multicultural in your opinion? I mean, it's multicultural to an extent in terms of, like, Egyptians as, like, you're talking about Nubians, and then you got, like, some Berbers, Arabs and stuff, and you have some Jews as well, and obviously like Coptic Christians and everything. But I wouldn't call it the most diverse place. Obviously not somewhere like the United States or the UK, for example. For 2K saying 100k commemoration video needs to be K getting Brazilian waxed. Oh man, I'd absolutely hate that. We've already got the 100k plan. It's melt this into some sort of broth and drink it in like a minute. Yeah, I guess it's what you want in a debate, Samuel. Like, I've always said, I think debating's kind of pointless, and I'd only do it for clout, to like get it on like a different platform. I mean, I am passionate about this shit. People saying socialism's inherently violent, and if you're a socialist, you're basically like a fascist, which has been the Twitter discourse lately. But other than that, debating random stuff, I just do it for attention, maybe. So Katie's saying about the human body, I'm very desensitized to bodies, but it makes me so sad when women come in and ask things like, do I have an ugly, attractive, whatever part, because because I'm not gonna be like, yeah, it's hideous. But the thing is, like, oh yeah, it's attractive. Most people don't look like models. Yeah, and the thing is as well, it's like, why do they want you to judge that? Like, you just have what you have at the end of the day. If you're with a partner, you're hardly going to be breaking up with them because down there it doesn't look exactly like what you see on porn or something. Yeah, 1991 Russia. I don't think we're ever going to get Assassin's Creed in that. Yeah, socialism would be peaceful for ruling. Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, liberalism is maintained through violence every single day and was constructed on violence. So it's just crazy, like, this person was blocking everyone, unfollowing everyone who was a socialist because she thought eat the rich was inherently violent, and she was getting very butthurt about supposed redistribution of wealth because it might possibly be violent. Like, we're not all talking about, like, Robert Mugabe style stuff. We're just talking, like Cuba, like, get the fuck out and we're going to take away the land you've built on slavery and give it to the people. Nicky Man, yeah, we're talking about that. And that's basically where this my tweet on the screen came from. Absolutely insane take. Like, and just the thing is, I don't even mind people saying shit like that sometimes. But the thing is, I don't necessarily like completely hate liberals, like liberal people I know, right? I'm talking about like, liberalism as an ideology. And I'm not prone to being super hostile against people personally, but like when someone starts saying to you, like someone like me who's like totally normal, not a violent person, don't advocate for violence, don't like violence, but realise in some situations throughout history, of course, it's been necessary. Saying that I'm inherently violent because some people talk about eating the rich, and even just ignoring the history of socialism or the contemporary like politics of socialism. Like I said, Jeremy Corbyn is a socialist MP. There's a socialist independent group and Labour group of MPs in Parliament. These guys do not want to kill people. And in Bolivia, like I said, the socialists got expelled in a right-wing coup. They retook power and just sent the people to prison. They didn't orchestrate like some mass violence or something. And the Liberals are so ridiculous because they don't realise this sort of language they're using was used to justify things like the Vietnam War. Of course, the fear when the US pulled out was if the North Vietnamese take over Vietnam, it's just going to be like mass killings everywhere. And then what actually happened is that didn't happen. There was retribution, there was reprisal killings, of course, against police officers, army, people who'd collaborated with the Americans and the French. My friend who's Vietnamese Catholic, his grandparents were put in a re-education camp. So yeah, it's not nice at all. Totally not nice. But this is also a country where 4 million people were killed by American genocide. The Vietnamese, like, I respect them a lot because they've turned the other cheek in many regards to a country that poisoned them and did genocide on them, and they've rose above that, which I really respect. And just to have, like I said, monopoly on violence, where, and I use this example for the discourse, is wealthy American racists overthrow British monarchy and create US through genocide and slavery. Oh my God, base land of the free, says the liberal. Poor peasants run plantation owners and the mafia out of Cuba. Liberals, I don't know, this makes me uncomfortable. And that's why liberalism is very frustrating. And it's like, you have your own revolution, Americans. And it's not what you say it was. It's not this average Joe rising up against oppression. It's a wealthy elite of slave owners no longer wanting to pay taxes and create their own state where they control the laws. That's essentially what it was. But when poor people actually do rise up against the oppressors, who a lot of the time are you, Americans, you get very precious about the use of violence and you ignore your own violence in suppress. Like, the thing is, the Americans are one of the biggest killers of socialists. The Americans, that's been the prime target of them for decades and decades. And we're really going to say that the socialists are the inherently violent ones when the Americans have been killing them in their millions over the last, how many million socialists have they killed in the last 50 years? Like, countless. And we're really going to pretend that liberalism, the maintenance of the status quo, the maintenance of the liberal world order, isn't inherently violent. And just because liberalism doesn't have words like class struggle or like, the dictatorship of the proletariat, just because it doesn't have language like that, we're going to pretend it's not inherently violent. And liberalism, in my mind, is inherently violent because it's the maintenance of the status quo, which is created on violence and is maintained by brutal violence, and it always has been. So, again, it's such an insane take, like totally detached from reality, that I feel like I hope they're okay, the person who said it, because I hope they're not going through like, a problem because they've been harassed a lot and probably going through a hard time. But it's very disappointing to like, I've made videos about how dehumanized leftists are in the US and the UK. And I said to my girlfriend, if I'm killed by a right-wing extremist, more people are going to be happy than sad in the UK. More people are going to celebrate my death. And in America, that'd be the exact same thing. And then you're out here saying that we're all fascists because we say eat the rich, which doesn't mean we want to literally eat Elon Musk's arm. We want to, it's basically the rich are depriving people of food. If we have nothing to eat, we'll eat them because we might as well overthrow them. It's not like, it's like more meme-y shit than rather, I want to actually eat someone. Again, it's just like so frustrating it actually like really pisses me off. Like, and I don't normally let this stuff get to me, but it's just so frustrating to see someone who has a bit of clout and seems like relatively normal and well informed, and then goes off on one like that. They were saying some other shit before, which I was trying to like debate them on and stuff. It's just like very, very annoying to see. John saying, I've been socialist for 70 years. It's tough over here. Yeah, man, like, you must have seen some shit, man. Sorry, read some more comments. Egypt is an Arab country. Well, it's not only Arab. If you even look at the ethnic makeup of the population. What do I think of Carl Kalinsky? Well, he helped me get my monetization back on YouTube, so he's pretty cool for that. So Miss Barfin saying, is Egypt like Iran? In Iran, some people embrace Islam and its golden era, and some other people want Islam and Arab was completely gone. Yeah, Egypt's not like that. Like, there's not like a movement, because I was talking about this before, like there is like a movement in Iran for like the more Persian elements of it, and obviously the Shah was big on that back in the day. But yeah, in Egypt it's not the same really. It's not part of my job description. It's very weird. Like, imagine if I was like a waxing men and like, yeah, mate, how's my cock looking? Yeah, Blake, this is a good question actually, because I was a pharmaceutical journalist for about a year. Do you think all pharmaceutical companies are inherently bad? My dad just took a job at GSK and he's trying to convince me they're one of the good ones. The thing is, Blake, I've spoken about this before. In a capitalist system, like a capitalist system where we do not live in a moneyless society, where we just create things to do better, pharmaceutical companies can be a necessary evil in the fact that they will invest a ton of money in diseases in a capitalist system the state wouldn't invest in. And that is something good pharmaceutical companies have done. But at the same time, I was talking with a professor in America who's an expert on drug price, and he says the main thing that needs to happen is delinkage, and that is the profit incentive for making drugs. And what should happen more is the government comes in and will give companies like GSK and Pfizer a massive investment to produce a drug with the state's help, and not like in America at the moment where they'll do this anyway, but then the state also owns like part of that drug and it's accessible to the state. It's not like America where your tax dollars actually do pay for this pharmaceutical research, but then they charge extortionate amounts of prices for the drugs. Delinkage is more like you work in tandem with the government, and then the government get the profits, but you work with them to get better access to the market. And GSK was quite shitty, Blake, because Britain have this thing called NICE, National Institute of something. Basically regulates drug prices. The US doesn't have something similar. Tony Blair set it up, and when he set it up, the head of GSK was like ringing him on the phone saying like, oh, if you go through with this, GSK is like permanently taking its operations away from the UK. So pharmaceutical companies can be a necessary evil, but ones like Johnson & Johnson or the pharmaceutical branch Janssen, Pfizer, Purdue Pharma, they're also some of the most fucking evil corporations in the history of the entire world. Like, and the American system enables these guys immensely. So that, you know, I am not an expert, but I know a lot more about pharmaceuticals than most people. Like when you read about Johnson & Johnson and Janssen, they often pay like $1 billion in fines to people who've taken their medicine and had cancer, or used baby powder and had cancer. But it's just like nothing to them. They make so much money. And obviously you've seen with the patented stuff to do with what's going on in the world right now. I'm not going to say it. Yeah, and you just see how messed up it is. So in a capitalist system, pharmaceutical companies can often be a necessary evil to just put the capital into researching new treatments that the government cannot afford unless they tax you more. But ideally, we'll have new proposals like delinkage, and I would love a system where it's not all about profit and we don't have to tax people more. We can just make these things because we want to make them. Jeremy Corbyn proposed state drug companies, as did Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Basically, what that would be is, in America particularly, the companies that make generic drugs are often the company that makes a generic version of a drug is often the company that makes the branded one, and essentially they have a monopoly on that product. And while owning both of them, that means they can inflate the prices and control the prices. So America, fun fact for you, all you Americans, the reason your drugs cost so much is because America is one of the least regulated markets in the entire world. So the pharmaceutical companies can know that they can make most of their profit in America, and they actually give away a lot of these drugs for free in poorer countries. While the UK, for example, has a really good price regulatory board. So you're not going to be able to extort the UK population enough, thankfully, with the NHS involved in that and stuff. So if anyone tells you that universal healthcare isn't really linked to drug pricing, it definitely can be linked to drug pricing. Just got to make a separate body for it. And I think they are trying to allow Medicaid to negotiate drug prices. I think that's something even Nancy Pelosi was saying she wanted and stuff. I'm going to read some more comments. It's okay, so I have so many thoughts about what you were talking about earlier. It's like liberals have never heard about blowback. Yeah, exactly. Like, they never think these things have consequences, and it's like a violent... Like, even socialism is a reaction to capitalism, and nearly every country that goes socialist is reacting to capitalist oppression. It's not just like some sort of mixed market, like, democracy that suddenly gets swept by the communists. It's like, it's a reaction. Czechoslovakia, capitalist democracy, sold out to the Nazis, and then after the war, the Czech people and the Slovak people vote for a communist government. And people like to act like Stalin, like he put all these communist parties in. Czechoslovakia voted for these guys because they hated the West and they hated the capitalist system that exposed them so much. So Tony's saying, if you want to learn political science, you always need to learn history before you take things out of context. That, my friend, is how you get your information. You probably do that, Cav, just saying. Yeah, I have a history degree and a political science degree, and I just love history, so I'm pretty well covered on that stuff. But history, the thing is, I think a lot of debate bros just like know politics contemporarily and don't know history that well. And I think that creates like a massive problem. They also don't know any history that isn't Western history, which I think is one of the biggest problems. American independence is literally just a bunch of white bourgeoisie wanting to keep slaves. Yep. Sorry, I'm just reading some more comments. Sorry, a bit of a backlog. I'll eat Elon Musk's arm. Eat their ass. Yeah, imagine thinking eat the rich is literally advocating for cannibal. Yeah, insane. In Iran, everyone hates leftists. Yeah, but at least the leftists did the revolution, which people forget. They think it was just Khomeini. So sorry. Yeah, maybe we had different definitions of Western chauvinist. I think like Sam Harris is like a Western chauvinist because he's about like Western supremacy. I think Vosh has like some Western, what's even the word? I guess you could call it chauvinistic, but like it's more like the US is shitty, but we're better than other people. I don't know if that's chauvinistic. I'm not sure. You gotta like the video. Yeah, like the stream if you liked it. So I'm just reading some more comments. I love some Coptic friend. You have Coptic friends, you mean? So Kate's saying, in all seriousness, people need to respect the boundaries of service workers and the like. In a job that is as intimate as mine, boundaries are fundamental to protecting everyone. Yeah, Katie, do you find because you see people like without clothes on, do you think they take that a bit far in the sense of what you're comfortable with? Would be interesting to hear. Sorry, I'm just reading some more comments. Yeah, Sunshine, it sounds like your mum has just been brainwashed to think universal healthcare is bad when it's actually really good. Yeah, Britain failed. That's another thing. It's like, why do we talk about Munich and then the Ribbentrop something pact, the Nazi Soviet pact? Why do we act like they're different things? Like, we act like selling out Czechoslovakia to the Nazis was like a genuine attempt for peace. But Stalin wanting a border from the Nazis is bad, and it's like he sold out Poland. But the thing is, Czechoslovakia was literally established by the Allies, and it was literally all the people in Czechoslovakia were a government in exile in Great Britain. Britain had a responsibility to protect them. Poland and Russia did not like each other, so like Stalin wasn't going to go and fight Germany over Poland. So yeah, obviously I don't agree with both of them. Like, I don't think they're both pretty shitty, but I mean, like, it's weird in like Western history we think Munich is okay, but Nazi-Soviet pact means the Nazis and Soviets got along when they didn't. Obviously, absolutely fucking hated each other. It's like the fucking war of the Soviet Union for the Nazis was like a race war, and we act like, because of the Nazi-Soviet pact, Stalin and Hitler were BFFs or something. Do I know about Egyptian war crimes? I mean, which ones? A video about Joe Rogan. Spooky Kitty, I have a couple. Type in my name and type in Joe Rogan. I probably have the video you're looking for, just about his podcast and like him being a bit of a dumb lib, but sometimes having leftists on. So I'm reading some more. Oh. My best lesson has been to shut up about shit I don't know. I don't know shit about the world. Vosh falls into the trap sometimes because sociology makes one this way. Yeah, the thing is, like obviously I'm lucky because my background's in history and politics, but why do a lot of these streamers think they know everything when they just don't have the education? Like, I'm not saying you need an education to know about these things, but it's really clear a lot of them when they're talking about stuff literally have no clue about them, but they talk about them with such authority. Like, if you guys ask me to talk about something, I don't know, let's think about some. Okay, if you guys say to me, or give me an opinion on 1848 and like the revolutions around Europe and stuff, I'm not going to talk about it like I know what I'm talking about because I don't know that period very well. And I've said to my girlfriend the other day, one of my big blind spots in history are about Europe between the fall of Rome to about, Anglo-Saxon King Alfred Britain, and I'd probably say like Europe, Central Europe and Western Europe in the mid 1800s. I'd say is one of my biggest blind spots in history that's important. So I'm not going to pretend to you I know what I'm talking about, but I feel like a lot of streamers would just pretend to know what they're talking about based on like some irrelevant info they might have heard. Like, I can't imagine Vosh knows Chinese, Israeli, like Middle Eastern history too well, from based on what I've seen, or just like general history too well. And it just amazes me, like, but that's the thing with debaters. Like, streamers have their place. Streamers are like good at sometimes getting people on side of your politics, but that's why I think the disconnect showed itself yesterday with the Richard Wolff and Destiny thing. When Richard Wolff is talking, I'm like, awesome, I'm learning stuff. Like, here's a guy who's an authority and stuff teaching me. When Destiny's talking, I'm like, all right, like, you're just trying to get like a jab in because it's a debate. And I think that's the disconnect, that Richard Wolff actually does know what he's talking about and Destiny doesn't really know what he's talking about. But Destiny might be a good debater in the Twitch debate bro scene because that's just how you win these stupid debates. It's about winning, isn't it? It's not about, if you're talking about if you had to cut that debate in half, who do you think would make you a more educated person if you just had to listen to one of them? Of course, it's Richard Wolff. So who won the debate? It's not like Destiny's going to convert anyone to liberalism. It's about you have preconceived notions of this stuff anyway. Like, Destiny's never going to sway me towards liberalism or capitalism, but at the same time, he's not offering me anything insightful or anything to really chew on. Where Richard Wolff, where people didn't like it, I prefer a longer answer where you actually teach me something. Let's read some more comments. Oh my god, Katie, that is so fucking awful. Sorry for laughing. Katie's saying, I've been harassed unintentionally and it might just be part of the job, but first week on the job, without getting into specifics, a client called me a dom while I was waxing her ass. That is just so mortifying. Like, what did you do? Did you just ignore it? Like, how the that's probably like people who do like waxing and people who do massages. That's probably like your worst nightmare. Yeah, Sunshine, just sounds like your mum's a bit confused or just still a bit indoctrinated, and that's pretty common. That's the bro culture. If you don't know what you're talking about, just accuse others of knowing even less. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone generalizes. Yeah, of course. I just think you shouldn't pretend you know stuff when you don't. So Kate's saying most people are not fools about this stuff, and anything the biggest line that gets blurred out is that clients often think of us as besties and therapists. I guess hairdressers probably get that a lot as well. But yeah, I can imagine the shit they probably dump on you in that like environment. So what are you guys talking about? Oh, sorry, I've seen some other people here in the chat. But I need to plan my video tomorrow. What else do I want to talk about? Did I have anything else to talk about? Check my Twitter notifications. Yeah, I agree with Gustav right here. Capitalism is inherently violent. Yeah, exactly. What was I going to say? Oh, what's the deal with Ben Shapiro and this log thing? Like, or the plank of wood. Wait, has Big Sam been fired? Because sorry, I'm just reading about the Super League stuff that's been happening in soccer. Is the history of Egypt bad or boring? Boggy, of course not. Egypt's like one of the most interesting countries in history. Oh my god, Katie. So she was a swinger and told me she was going to a party in Philly. And when she said that, and also that her BF wanted to watch, I was like, that is not what this is. Oh my god, that is the most awkward thing, man. I can't even, like, I would crack up, but it is also pretty mortifying, like, thinking they might be liking you waxing them as well. Oh god, creepy. History of Egypt is long. Oh, thanks, Sunshine. Thanks for joining as well, the classes. I actually don't really like wearing them. I've been trying not to wear them as much, but I appreciate you liking them. Now, thanks so much for tuning in, man. I can make Sonny sandwiches out of Prince Andrews. Yeah, we spoke about this, Sam. You might want to catch up on this stream on my archive channel, because I just spoke about that. Yeah, what was I going to say? One more thing I wanted to say. I always blank and stuff. Oh, I weren't even following the football today. Oh yeah, here's one more thing. This can be the last topic. What do people think about? I said to someone yesterday on Discord as I was talking to them. I said, I really wish leftists would reclaim atheism, because it's really frustrating. How mainstream atheism, new atheism, seems to just like be a bunch of neocons and like weird centre-right liberals. And of course, like Marxists and Marxists throughout history have been big proponents of atheism. And I said, like, for me, atheism's not just is not just the rejection of God and religion. It's also about challenging the power structures of religion that often run parallel to or are intertwined with capitalism. So I kind of see it as like sometimes like a similar problem, especially things like the Catholic Church and various Christian congregations in the US. And it's just frustrating that atheism in general has been kind of poisoned by this neoconservative, bigoted version under new atheism and stuff. So it's quite like annoying for me. I don't know if we need to, but it's like I feel like the rejection of these power structures, you know, opioid of the masses, as Marx said, and everything. I don't know. I think it could be helpful. Now, obviously, I'm not telling anyone what to believe, and anyone, if you're religious and that's whatever. Obviously, I don't believe in it, and I kind of think it's ridiculous. But like, that's what you want to believe and stuff. But I don't know. I would like atheism, like general atheism, to not be like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson adjacent of like people like Sam Harris. I just want it to be like it's challenging power dynamics. It's challenging institutions of power that has existed for thousands of years, and we're rejecting this control and this orthodoxy of mainstream religion. And I'm not even saying you got to reject, you know, religion, you know, or belief in an afterlife or God and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, this should be a leftist thing. It shouldn't be a neoconservative thing, where often it turns into Western chauvinism, where it's like, well, yeah, Christianity is bad, but like Islam is the worst, isn't it? You know, like Islam is just horrible. Christianity gave us all these good things and like art and culture, while Islam is completely backwards and shit like that. But Sam Harris and these people say. So it would be nice if we shifted that, where the main atheists were leftists who directed the energy into challenging religious power structures and capitalism, rather than these guys who seem to uphold the status quo and essentially created like a new strain of fascism, white chauvinism, white Western chauvinism, which, you know, the Proud Boys say they're chauvinists, but a lot of them are atheists. So atheist culture is kind of cringe. The religion is the opium. I agree with both. I think the religion and the faith can be sometimes, but again, I'm not telling people not to believe in it if I don't want to. Ben Shapiro is not an atheist, yeah, I know, but like, I mean, Sam Harris and like Jordan Peterson, who's, you know, Christian as well, they're all put in like the same bubble where they're like the intellectual dark web. I think it's weird. Faith leaves people open for exploitation. Yeah, a lot of the time. Yeah, what, mate? I kind of agree with that, because I said even in my last video I was an atheist channel first, and I think it is the critical thinking of like, you see all the lies you've been fed your whole life, like the veil is lifted, and I think that does help with like understanding how shitty the capitalist system is as well, because the capitalist system and Christianity or Islam, depending where you're from, it is shoved down your throat from a very young age. Like we're indoctrinated, or I was indoctrinated into Catholicism just as much as I was indoctrinated into capitalism, and believing capitalism is this great system and stuff, which you're taught in school. So yeah, I think I do agree with your point there, actually. But obviously you don't need to be an atheist to have critical thinking skills as well. But yeah, like I said, for some people it can help. I think it helped me. Like you're right there. But yeah, like when you that's what I think history is important sometimes, because when you read the history of Catholicism, it's so hilarious, and it's also ridiculous, and it's also horrifically violent, and then you think to yourself, most people who are Catholic used to believe the Pope talks to God, like literally talks to him. But then at one point in history there was 3 popes, because the French had their Pope, the Holy Roman Empire had their Pope, and the Milanese had their Pope as well. And they're all saying this is the real Pope. And it's all politics. And then you have things like the Crusade, you know, a political thing to try and reunify the Eastern and Western Church. Also like a power grab for territory in Jerusalem and stuff. But just like it's just very interesting history, and ridiculous history as well. And it just makes you, and you just think when you read it, you're like, so these guys decide what Christianity is for all us Catholics, but it's been changing for thousands of years, and it doesn't remotely look similar to the Catholicism believed by people 1,000 years ago. So how can I trust this is right? Because 1,000 years ago they did all this awful shit and believed they were going to heaven, because the Pope would tell them they're going to heaven. Like the Pope literally said, if you went on a crusade and died, knights, your sins would be forgiven, and you wouldn't be going to hell anymore. You'd be going to purgatory, and that's guaranteed if you died in the crusade. So the Pope used to say that, but these days the Pope would never say something like that. But these guys are both the leaders of that religion. It's just very bizarre. Fucking Busker, I did a module at university called The History in the Bible, where we actually had to read the Bible a lot. The apocalypses, I spoke about it in my Wednesday video. It's literally just like the most batshit stuff I've ever read. Like the guy who wrote it must have been so high, because it's literally insane. Don't we all love Jesus too much? I mean, I don't love him. I don't believe in him. Being an atheist, would it make him more or less unbearable? Maybe it'd make him more unbearable. Yeah, what, mate? You know, that's the ironic thing, isn't it? Jesus is like, to the rich man, yeah, you're not getting into heaven unless you give away all your stuff. But somehow Christianity has been something, you know, traditionally, well, especially these days in America, something that upholds wealth and privilege. Same in the UK with the Church of England. So it's very ironic. So I'm just reading some more stuff. Yeah, the Soviet Union had no official religion, but it's not like you couldn't be religious in the Soviet Union. Jesus was a socialist. I mean, he's closer to a socialist than anything the Christians claim otherwise. The Bible is a cool book for being like very of its time, but it's also written a lot long after the events happened. And if you read the history of that time period, no one mentions Jesus even existing. I think it's like 200 years after he supposedly died. So it makes you quite suspect. And also there was, I don't know if you guys have ever read Josephus. He's a Jewish a rich Jewish man who was captured by the Romans and became Romanized, and then he went on to write the biography of Tacitus, who conquered Jerusalem and burnt down the temple. But what's very interesting is he's talking about in the book basically civil war that is going on in the Jewish population. And I think Jesus was actually part of one of the groups who were fighting in it. And it's just very interesting thinking, maybe was Jesus like, did he get famous because he was trying to break away from the Jewish elite as one of these groups? And maybe that's where the whole stuff comes from. I don't know. It's interesting. That time period is very interesting, the Roman Jewish war and stuff. So I'm reading some more stuff while this part is still going on. Yeah, the Romans adopting it is obviously very bad. The Council of Nicaea, yeah, that's really interesting, because the Council of Nicaea is when they basically decided on what the dogma of the church would be, and there's literally there's literally gospels that were discarded. Like, you cannot believe in this gospel. Is it like the gospel of is that like the gospel of Mary Magdalene or something? Am I making that up, or have I heard of that before? It's all, yeah, religious history is fascinating. Like, as a massive atheist, I really like it. Islamic history is really interesting because they found a bunch of Qurans in Yemen. I think they found a bunch of Qurans in Yemen that either did mention Jesus, or actually I think they didn't mention Jesus Christ and the Christianity, and because obviously a lot of you will know the Quran actually has a lot of the Christian figures are just not, Jesus is in it, but he's not the Son of God. But they found Qurans in Yemen which had none of this in, which led to their theory that like the combination of Christianity and the Christian stories into Islam came actually a lot later after Muhammad died, and there must have been like a war over this within the Islam itself of, is the real word of God Christianity mixed in with Islam, or is it Islam on its own, basically? It's really interesting, the development of these religions. Obviously, the Shia and Sunni split with Muhammad's family and Muhammad's friends and stuff. Gospel of Judas, maybe it was the Gospel of Judas, not the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Yeah, 900 schisms in Islam is basically that case. Oh, okay. The Romans is the reason we have Coptics in Egypt. Yeah, well, Muhammad knew Jewish people, and that's why, like, if we're talking about like Islam, it's just very funny that like Islam is essentially Judaism mainly, then bits of Christianity, and then the news stories about Muhammad, and just with like Jesus. If we're thinking about Jesus as a figure, could have added on his own stories, and like the Christians added in their own stories after Judaism. Islam is kind of the same, where it's like this guy like knew about this religion and then would go on to say he's the prophet, just like Jesus did, and then he knew about the religion, so he could have easily just made it himself. And as an atheist, I believe that's what people like Muhammad and Jesus did, is that they maybe did believe they were the prophet of the Abrahamic God. Also could have just been in it for a power grab, because Muhammad's conquests of the region paved the way for like multiple Arab empires and stuff, which lived on long after he died. So very interesting though. Okay, the Gospel of Judas claims Jesus asked Judas to turn him in. That's interesting. Well, also, the other thing is, all the Gospels, I think Luke is the only original Gospel, and every other Gospel is just an edit of that. I think I was reading somewhere as well. What aspects of Islam are similar to Judaism? Like the whole origins of Islam, because Moses, Abraham, because the Islamic God is the God of Abraham, and he's literally called that in the Quran. Then you do have all these biblical figures who, I think Solomon as well, and David are in the Quran, and obviously Jesus is in the Quran, and Mary. So, oh, awesome, Ubicore. Thanks a lot. You love my videos on Hideo Kojima MGS. I do like making those ones. But yeah, the kosher and halal rules obviously pretty similar, but just like the stories and stuff. Allah equals God. Yeah, that's the weird thing. Like a lot of Americans seem to not understand is that Allah is literally like the same God. Like you all believe in the same God. You all believe in the Abrahamic God. Yeah, they all share the Old Testament. Yeah. Most histories before Jesus in the Catholic Bible, also in the Quran. Yeah, I started reading the start of the Quran because I have an English one. But apparently the English one is a bit different from the Arabic one. Also, when did it become okay to translate the Quran? Because obviously they think it's the literal word of God, like God's wrote it, essentially. But yeah, no, religious history, like, was super interesting to me. That's why I love like the Assassin's Creed games, especially the Viking one. Just like the clash of like civilization stuff, I really love. Not the Samuel Huntington, not the Samuel Huntington book. Are the Cathars in Europe, and they had crusades against them, Franklin? I think I read about that once. Is Lenin's State and Revolution the one about World War One? Then I might have. What was this say? What was I even talking about? Yeah, oh, the Clash of Civilization stuff. Like that's why I love the show Vikings, which I started watching, because I just love seeing these two religions interact and stuff. It's really interesting. The Catholic Crusades, yeah, in the 1200s. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I read about them in my book, and it's just extremely brutal. And just, you know, maybe a bit of history we don't really talk about. I don't remember where I read this, but I heard the entire Bible was written by God. I've never heard that. The Quran is supposedly like the direct word of God. Like, it shouldn't be changed. But the Bible isn't known to be the word of God. I'm pretty sure. Oh, okay, no, I haven't read it, JP. Oh, yeah, Nathan, I was talking to someone, one of my patrons. I used to be pretty militant atheist, and while I wouldn't make fun of people, because I know as someone who's been indoctrinated myself, you can't really help it, but I would ridicule the beliefs a bit. That is pretty nonsensical. I've kind of gone off that a bit because I'm more about politics and like class and shit like that now. Like, and why I do think religion is pretty ridiculous. Like, it's just very unjustifiable in my view, that you think your whole world. The thing is as well, if you think about history, right, the Quran, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they literally all come from the same ancient story that happened in, you know, Judea, or like, you know, Abraham's lands and stuff. And you're telling me that out of the thousands of gods throughout the world, some are very, you know, even older than the Abrahamic God. You're telling me this one guy that this small group of people, you know, the Jewish people believed in, he was right, and that's the real one. But Thor and Odin, or Mars and Jupiter, or Ra, or, you know, the Hindu gods, or, you know, the Greek gods, they're all wrong. But the Abrahamic God is right. And that's, even without going into like the theology and stuff, that's where it gets me as a bit ridiculous. Like, there's one group of people who, thanks to the Roman Empire, had their, you know, when the Christians came, had their beliefs spread, you know, throughout Europe and the world. That's the right one. But Hinduism, which is older, isn't right. And, you know, the Norse gods weren't real, and they weren't right. And the Greek gods weren't real, despite them being older. That's why I never understand with religion. It's like... And that's even without going into like the dubious aspects of like the Bible and the unscientificness of it all, considering this God is apparently meant to be all-knowing and knows everything about the world, or going into, you know, the historical Jesus really not being a known quantity, Muhammad, and, you know, he was a known quantity a bit more, but still, like, lots of questions there. So like I find it, you know, even fundamentally, like, why is your God right over the other ones that are older and haven't changed as much, whereas your one apparently changes his beliefs all the time? Sounds kind of strange for a God that's meant to know, be like or like, he literally does not exist within like the time, so he knows the future. But apparently 1,000 years ago, according to the Pope, we were meant to go kill Muslims and go to heaven, and now we're not meant to do that. So God's changed his mind in 1,000 years, but he's eternal, so why does 1,000 years matter to him? But yeah, that you know, I'm not gonna. If someone tells me they're Christian or Muslim, which I have Muslim and Christian friends, I'm not gonna have a massive rant about how stupid I think they are or whatever or something like that. Yeah, and someone's saying they think Mary and Jesus might have come from the Egyptian pantheon Horus, and there's lots of parallels with the Abrahamic God and local gods in the Middle East and stuff. Python, I actually did talk about that in my video, but because it was getting too long, I cut it out. But the here's to you, so I did talk about. I've never heard that, Samuel Winters. It's quite interesting though. Jesus was a Buddhist monk. The Roman had cults of worship and a lot of different Eastern gods. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you go back 2,000 years and more people believed in the not Abrahamic God. So why wasn't that the right one? But because more people now believe in the Abrahamic God, apparently that's the right one. And the Greek gods aren't relevant or something. Hi Nico, thanks for joining. Yeah, they deserve a better God, no beef with them. Yeah, it's just, you know, I'm not an atheist channel. I could argue about this all day, but I think the right of even atheism a bad name. Yeah, I've got agnostic. I fundamentally believe like there's nothing when we die. You know, I look at bugs, I look at animals, and we don't think animals die and go to heaven, do we? Like the billions and billions of insects and animals that die every couple years, we think they're all in heaven. They're not even conscious. Things like chimps. The chimps go to heaven. They're nearly as smart as humans, but they don't believe in God. They do have, you know, there's been a theory that chimps might have their own religious practices, but you know that's the strange thing about religion. It changes. It's like, you know, apparently your dog's going to be in heaven, but all the gorillas that die aren't going to be in heaven. it's just very, I find religion strange. But yeah, I fundamentally believe there's nothing when you die. Just like there's nothing for, you know, animals don't believe they're coming back. There's nothing for them when they die. No reincarnation, no heaven or hell. And I think that's just it. And I think, like, obviously the history of it, humans couldn't explain what they were seeing, and then lots of people just don't want to accept the reality. There's nothing, because then what's the point for a lot of people? And what's the point of living in the first place? And lots of people do you know, get really depressed about that. For me, I'm just like trying to like enjoy my life and make the most of it while I'm here. But that's why I'm such an advocate for anti-capitalism, because it's so hard to enjoy your life while being crushed or oppressed in various different degrees by a capitalist system. Like, you know, when I was working, that's 60 hours with the commute, 60 hours of my week just gone. What, that's your life for 45 years? That's what you do, and then you die. And that's, you know, when Rome and various other civilizations like Babylon and stuff were so advanced, I'm sure they didn't imagine everyone sitting in an office for 45 years, 60 hours a week until they died, having horrible health problems. Yeah, to Harker saying, you know, once you die, once you die, it's like before you were born, you just stop existing. Yeah, exactly. It's hard for people to accept, but it's better you accept it early, because you don't want to have a crisis when you're like 70 years old and think, fuck, I thought I was getting to heaven all my life, and now I realise there's nothing. Yeah, our matter returns to the universe. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah, just like everything, it's just like the natural cycle, isn't it? Like you die, you turn to like basically worm food or food for like you know, plants or trees and stuff, and that's pretty much it. And what I like, in Assassin's Creed, I'm like walking past these people, and I'm like, that's basically what I am in the span of this. I'm just like the one person who walks past you for a second, and that's literally how relevant I am in like the span of history and stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. I don't think too much religiously anymore, despite, you know, literally making a video on religion on Wednesday about Armageddon. Kate saying, nothingness is incredibly uncomfortable to think about. It's uncomfortable, but like at the end of the day, you won't know when you're dead, and it's just like it, isn't it? Like it's a weird thing to think about, really. Preserving consciousness. Yeah, I thought about that as well, Nikki, but it wouldn't really be you, would it? Even if it is you, it's not actually you because you're still dead. Which is interesting to think about. But yeah, but you won't experience that. Yeah, you'll be gone, basically. Yeah, you won't even know it. But yeah, the best thing you can hope for is just like enjoy your life, make the most of it, have no regrets, and overthrow capitalism so we can all live and enjoy our lives instead of working for profit while destroying the planet without any say. So yeah, it's quite like you know, as you get older and you enter the working world, your kind of optimism is smashed a lot, because like I don't know, it just makes you realize a lot of things. Like I used to hate going to work and looking around the office at like people who are older and just thinking like, is that going to be me? Like in 60 years, I still have, and the thing is, like, I work hard on my YouTube, but it's just nice. Like today, I just went for lunch with my girlfriend randomly, and then wrote some of my Assassin's Creed review, and then live streamed. And tomorrow I'm just gonna get up, plan my video, work out, record my video, edit it, and maybe just play some video games for a couple hours before I go to bed. And it's just so much nicer than just like go to bed at 1:30, wake up at 6:30, get the train into work from 8:30 to 5:30, get the train back, get home at 7. It's fucking exhausted. Try and choose what to do. Maybe you got to do YouTube, maybe you got to exercise, and maybe at the weekend see your friends, your girlfriend for a tiny bit. Nikki, probably not. I mean, I think the capitalists have their hooks in too deep and have also brainwashed way too many of us. Because I always say, like, the reason I'm not like a complete advocate for socialism, not that I've got a better solution, is kind of that I don't have any faith in humanity in terms of I think we're so brainwashed as a species about individualism and capitalism, especially in Western countries, that I think there's no hope really. I'm a bit of a doomer, someone said earlier, but I think I am. Not that I love him or anything, but Robert Kennedy had a good quote he said one day. He said it's like it's American people's like responsibility, like joining the Peace Corps and stuff, is to make people's lives better, because you're born in America, you've won the lottery, you're incredibly lucky. You could be born in Brazil and not even make it past 1 year old, dying in, you know, child poverty. You could be born in all these horrible like situations and you have no chance, but you're born in America, and like based on, you know, kind of awful circumstances, is the most powerful country in the world, and you got to make the most of it basically, and maybe spend your life helping people, and that's like a nice message and stuff. And I, you know, I'm extremely privileged. You know, although my like grandma and grandparents are all like poor, you know, Irish immigrants to the UK. My dad went to university, got good grades in school, got to have a good job, and he's, you know, I still live at home and stuff. I've told people this. I got to go to a really good university. I had a good education. Not because they paid. I didn't go private school or anything. I went public Catholic school. But I had the, you know, the environment with a nice family where I could work hard, and my parents weren't pushy and they weren't on my case, and, you know, I didn't need their help with most things, but they had the environment which allowed me to achieve what I want. And then they're understanding enough at, you know, in November, and I was like, I'm quitting my job because I fucking hate it and everything. They were supportive enough, and then I was just like, I'm doing YouTube full time, and they're not on my case about getting a job because the money at the moment is decent enough on YouTube, and there's potential to make more. So, but I'm extremely lucky in that regard, because I could, you know, grow up a bit poor in the UK, have to go to work at 16, then I'm doing something I fucking hate until I die. I grew up in a nice part of London as well, so that's really great. Had nice friends, never got into trouble with police, with crime, never grew up in an area where I was more susceptible to that stuff. So like it's a lottery. Like even if you grow up in the UK or the US in relative privilege, comparatively to the world, it's still completely based on your social, economic factors. And that's why a lot of the times I believe people don't actually have free will, is because you're only a product of your environment. You're only a product of, I always say I'm not really like my parents. But the only reason I'm not really like my parents is because they're kind of like hands off a bit. I'm allowed to not be like them. But a lot of people do turn out just like their parents because the way they parent them, they're not allowed to not be like them. They just turn into clones of their parents. That happens so much. You won the spawn point. Yeah, exactly. You should look more to China, Cav. The only chance we have of revolution in the West is the ending of unipolar imperialism. But like, the thing is, I'm not excited about the future where Russia, the US, and China all carve up the world between them. Like, I don't see China as like some benevolent country that helps African countries because they just want to help African countries. It's like I believe in, like I learned in international relations at school, I believe in the realist school of thought where like the world is a place that is in constant anarchy and states coexist because it's just better to work together sometimes, but they will always have in the back of their mind like competition and hurting each other. And I don't think China or the US acts on the world stage out of moral principles, really. Sometimes nationalism and ideological beliefs, but I think the rivalry between them isn't driven by morality, it's driven by power, really. So yeah, I'm not excited about the rise of China, like maybe some people are. Of course, I'm happy enough to see the decline of the United States as a world power. I'm not happy in that a country that I don't have any love for is going to fill the void, really. And it's going to be like, who knows what's going to happen with India, Brazil, and countries like that as well. JP saying, from my point of view as someone living outside the US, I see it as a crumbling empire, and I really don't think global capitalism can exist without a superpower upholding it, like the US does. Maybe perhaps that could happen. The global south aren't going to overthrow capitalism. If you actually talk to people like from like Pakistan and Colombia, they're demoralized as people in the first world. Yeah, I think we're all pretty demoralized, really. Yeah, I've always said, Nicky man, the US is like India or Brazil more than it is like Norway or something, because it's like rich middle class, massive drop off, and that's just what developing economies like India and Brazil have. They have the wealthy, they have like a traditional like Western style middle class, but then it's just insane levels of poverty, and the UK is quite bad poverty as well, but the US poverty is like crazy bad. It is like, we were watching on a stream a couple of months ago the worst places to live in America, and it's just like looks like a bomb's gone off. It looks like an Iraqi town after it's been devastated by war or something. Yeah, what mate? I'm not saying like in terms of foreign policy so far. Obviously, China aren't as bad as the US. Like no way. But I just don't believe China act out of genuine morals in terms of, they're deploying some PLA bases in African countries, and like I'm not in the belief that like, what's it called, the debt trap. They think they're putting all these African countries in debt to control them, which is hilarious and ironic considering that is exactly what the IMF and the United States have done for fucking decades. But I also don't think China care about African self-determination either. I think it's just like pawns on a chessboard for these countries. I think what China cares about most, from like an ideological perspective, is uniting historic China, like Tibet, Taiwan, Senkaku, others like that. But I don't think they care about African countries. I don't think China cares about anyone apart from itself. West Virginia is like a third world country. It still votes Republican. That's the massive brainwashing of capitalism. 4 a.m. Yeah, it's 4:30 nearly. But I probably won't go to bed till 7 tonight. All right, but you guys are right. Maybe I'm a bit tired and a bit hungry. But yeah, fun conversation tonight. If you missed any of it, I'm going to be posting it on my second channel, the Tabernacle Extra. So go subscribe to that. Hopefully I'll upload it before I go to bed. Sometimes it takes quite a while to like upload onto my actual channel. But yeah, that's something to look out for. Tomorrow there'll be another video. Really have no clue what it will be on. That Fight Club one sounds interesting, but we're going to have to try and find a if any of you know a conservative YouTuber or any political pundit who's talked about how much they love The Matrix and Fight Club, please give me a message on something so I can actually look into it. Who's going to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier? I'm waiting until they're all out, but then I'm going to watch them. So that's tomorrow, the last one, isn't it? But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who gave me super chats. Thanks so much, Katie, in particular. Also, I'm trying to think of the other names. Jago, Spooky Kitty. Wait, can I get it up somewhere? It's gone now. But everyone who donated, thanks a lot. The Critical Drinker. Okay, I'm gonna have a look at that then. But no, thanks so much to everyone for tuning in. Video tomorrow, another stream on Tuesday. If you missed any of this and you want to catch up, Tabernacle Extra in about 2 hours, I'd say. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much. See you soon. Message me on social media if you want anything. Press peace before I go. My grandparents are all Irish, but I was born and raised in England, so I don't have an Irish accent, sorry.